Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ruin. So today we'll be doing Magic the Gathering Top 10 Haunting Cards. And now, at number 10, we're going to start our list off with Haunting Apparition from Mirage. It's an uncommon, just going for 16 cents on the market. Costs 3 mana for this 1/2, basically. It's a flyer, so that's help. It has the power equal to 1 plus the number of green creature cards in target opponent's graveyard. I don't see how this card is effective. I don't even know why it's an uncommon, but this is the way it is. So you just hope that your opponent has green. This is why it's at number 10. So let's move on to number 9. We have one of the most expensive hunting cards, which is Haunting Wind from Antiquities, and it being an uncommon with an average price of $61 on the market. Well, it says each time an artifact is in play, it is tapped or its activation cost is paid, it will do 1 damage to that artifact's controller. It is not triggered by continuous artifacts. For 4 mana to do 1 damage every turn, this is not a very effective card, and the reason why it's expensive is basically it's old school. There's no reason for this card to be here. It is at number 9 because it does have more of a chance of someone having an artifact than green cards. So let's move on to number 8. So now what we got is Midnight Haunting from Innistrad or Commander 2014. It's an uncommon going for an average price of 22 cents. This instant, only costs 3 mana. It says put 2 1/1 white spirit tokens into play with flying onto the battlefield. Well, you can definitely make a spirit deck with this, and I do like this ability of instant because you can cast on an opponent's turn and surprise him, and then do something else with that. So let's move on to number 7. At number 7, we got, Haunting Hymm. It's from Time Spiral or Iconic Masters. It's an uncommon going for 6 cents. And as you guys know, I absolutely love Hymm to Turok, so this is just another one up the board. But it does cost 6 mana for this instance. This target player discards 2 cards. If you play the spell during your main phase, that player discards 4 cards instead. Well, I think that's completely awesome. But typically, 4 cards would be what the opponent has, so this would be very, very effective. So let's move on to number 6. We have Haunting Imitation from Crimson Vow Commander. It's a rare going for 12 cents on the market. Well, it says each player reveals the top card of their library for each creature the card revealed this way. Create a token that's a copy of it, and it's a 1/1. It's a spirit, in addition to its other types, and it has flying. Well, and then you can return it to your hand if no creatures. So that's a very effective spell, but it does require some manipulation to your deck or opponents, but most likely yours, to take effect of this card, which is also a sorcery. So let's move on to number 5. And halfway down our list is Chill Haunting from Scourge. It's an uncommon going for just 10 cents on the market. Cost 2 mana for as additional cost to play it. Remove X creature cards in your graveyard from the game. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. So it's not the most effective card, but it is I like as a backup because quite often if your creatures are in your graveyard, you're not going to do much with them. So you might as well use them to give an opponent's creature -X till end of turn. So let's move on to number 4. And we got Haunting Echoes from various sets. It's a rare going for an average price of 37 cents on the market. And this is kind of like a more expensive version to deck death an opponent. Cost 5 mana for this sorcery. Says exile all cards from target player's graveyard other than basic land cards. For each card exiled this way, search that player's library for all cards with the same name as that card, and exile. That player shuffles his or her library. Then, on top of that, if you don't exile cards, at least you get to see what the opponent's deck looks like. So for 5 mana, I don't know if that's very effective. But let's move on to number 3. Then we got Haunting Misery from Weatherlight. It's a common one for 17 cents on the market. It says, remove X creature cards in your graveyard from the game. It deals X damage to target player. I find that very, very more effective. Chances of an opponent having hexproof is very little, so I think this card is very underrated, making it a common. I think it should at least be an uncommon. But let's move on to number 2. Well, we got one from one of the recent sets. It's Haunting Voyage. It's from called Hymm. It's a mythic. Well, that's right, $4. Costs 6 mana, which is very expensive, but it says choose a creature type. Return up to 2 creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell was foretold, return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead. Well, for 5, plus the 2 swamp, you're not going to argue with that, especially if your graveyard is full. So mill yourself to put some kind of combo. and you can bring them out right away, or their opponent destroys them all, and use this card. But let's move on to number 1. And at number 1, we have Hallowed Haunting from Innistrad Crimson Veil. It's a mythic, going for just over $8, and we'll see this once it's kicked out of standard. Maybe it will do something. But for now, it says, as long as you control 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a white spirit creature token with this creature power, its toughness are equal to the number of spirits you control. So you make an enchantment deck, and if this card doesn't get destroyed, you basically win the game. So that is all the top 10 haunting cards. So I hope you guys have a good day and a good evening.